Morning, Brad.
Oh, I already said approve, so I didn't ask again.
Arrrr.
So it's interesting that none of the clocks coordinate anymore. The clock on this says your computer says 9:03.
Yeah, my
So
phone
does
Mhm.
says 3.
my
Got it.
my computer screen says
Oh,
9:10.
okay.
It's got
It's 9:03.
It's
good.
9:03.
We'll start
Yay,
then.
then we
So I found this
can.
poem.
Okay, I'm gonna silence everybody. Bart says I'm gonna love this morning.
It
So,
says that it's on a post by someone named Bill Ingalls. Uh, but then the initials at the bottom are BB. So basically, this is a poem from the universe.
okay.
I think every human being eventually has a moment where they're standing outside in sweatpants that have lost the will to be pants, holding a trash bag, a divorce, a parking ticket, or some other receipt from the universe that says, surprise, this too is a part of it. And then the sky bruises purple and the air touches your face like it knows your whole story. And suddenly you realize all the real is actually unreal. The dirt, the breath, the weird little bones in your hands, the fact that we're here on a floating rock with pollen counts, paying bills, missing dead people, loving living people who say, leaving now, while still fully naked and looking for socks. And still, the moon clocks in. No applause, no benefits, no note from management saying, great work being ancient and luminous again. Just the moon, working nights like a single mother with no applause, packing silver lunches for every dark thing that still has to rise. Tell me that isn't holy. Tell me there's a better word than sacred for the way light keeps returning with no guarantee we will actually stop and take note. I know people who believe in therapy, probiotics, tarot, 12-step meetings, manifestation journals, and waiting exactly 11 minutes before texting back so they don't appear emotionally available, even though their whole nervous system is standing in the driveway holding flowers. And underneath all of it, every ritual, every doctrine, every smoothie with chia seeds, the prayer is the same. Please let me be loved. Please let me be forgiven. Please let this little strange little light mean something before my lower back submits its formal resignation. What the hell is going on? For real though, what is this place? This unbearable tenderness of being alive long enough to watch steam lift from coffee in winter like a soul practicing leaving. To see your friend laugh so hard that they slap the table as if joy is a mosquito they're trying to kill. To hear a child say Pischetti and for one shining second realize language has finally been improved. I know I already noted this in the first piece, but the older I get, the less use I have for certainty. Certainty has never made me pull over because the sunset looked like God dropped a jar of peach jam across the whole Midwestern sky and decided to be lazy and not clean up. Certainty has never made me gasp at rain on hot pavement. Certainty has never found me in the cereal aisle holding Captain Crunch, suddenly remembering that everyone I've ever loved was made of stardust, hunger, and a series of decisions we probably should have slept on. No, it's always been awe. Awe was the first church, before steeples, before committees, before men got involved and started making rules about skirts. Awe was there with its wild hair and muddy feet saying, look, look again. Look until looking becomes love. Awe and soup. Awe and someone rubbing your back when you're sick. And old couples at Target arguing gently about avocados, as if marriage is not one vow, but 10,000 errands performed inside the person who knows exactly how you like the cart pushed. Maybe gratitude was never meant to sound elegant. Maybe gratitude sounds like, damn, that woodpecker's trying to beat that tree from itself. Or maybe gratitude sounds like, thank you, body, for continuing to drag me through this world, despite the many Slim Jims I've done to you at gas stations. Maybe gratitude sounds like, thank you to the dogs who lose their entire minds when we come home, as if we returned from war and not Walgreens. For me, that might be my gospel, that joy does not wait for us to be impressive, but only needs us to come through the door. Because the truth is, this life is devastating and ridiculous. 1 minute you're 22 and invincible, driving too fast, eating gas station nachos with the confidence of a Greek god. And the next minute you're going, can sneezing cause a hamstring injury? And the answer is apparently, welcome to the second half of your life. But even now, even tired, even grieving, even emotionally held together by iced coffee, playlists, and one very specific Wolves hoodie, we keep finding reasons to stay soft. We plant tomatoes even though grief is real. We bake bread even though the news is on fire. We send photos of the sky to people we love with captions like, look, as if beauty is an emergency and we're all volunteer firefighters. We keep saying, you have to see this because wonder is the oldest form of resurrection. So here's to the believers and the atheists and the agnostics and the people whose entire theology is just trying not to cry in the DMV line. Here's to the people clinging to faith. Here's to the people clinging to Xanax and oat milk and the one group chat where nobody pretends to be okay. Here's to all the tender-hearted weirdos, the accidental mystics, the ones who can contemplate mortality for 6 straight hours and then become emotionally attached to a perfect peach. The ones who know despair has a mouth, but so does laughter. Maybe we never stop being drop-kicked by beauty in the middle of the Sunday afternoon. May we never become so polished that we forget how to stand in the Starbucks line of existence with our dumb, gorgeous hearts open, feeling the enormity of it all rattle around in our bones like thunder, looking for somewhere to laugh. May we remember, whatever else this is, whatever mess, whatever miracle, whatever cosmic group project no one was prepped for, all of it's astonishing. That we're here, that we've loved enough to be ruined, that the moon keeps showing up and that bread exists. So pass it on. Tear off a piece with your bare hands. Take it in as soon as you take it down. And then go outside and look at the moon. Pretty fucking powerful.
Yeah, we can go home now.
We can go home now. I mean, that poem just is a summary of everything I've ever taught. It's so funny to come upon it accidentally and go, whoop, there it is. So today, we're going to talk about the opposite of that, the other end of the spectrum. It's nice to be remembered of the everyday wonder of life. That's obviously a person who spent time learning how to see instead of think. So Pema Chodron, and for those of you who don't know Pema, this book, When Things Fall Apart, I'd had it on my library shelf for years. And then my ex-wife walked out with my daughter with no warning. And I felt like I went to the front door and the world was gone. There wasn't my life. What do I do next? All the habitual things that you do when your family weren't there to do. And so it was a continual reminder of the fragility and the taken for grantedness that sustains and undergirds our everyday life. And there's nothing that wakes you up more than that kind of abrupt crisis in your life. So I said, here's a woman saying heart advice for difficult times. And what a blessing it was. I highly recommend it. We may explore some others of her things. And this is talking about a tension. I'll let her introduce it. She says, you may notice that there's frequently an irritating, if not depressing, discrepancy between our ideals and good intentions and how we're confronted, how we are when we're confronted with the nitty-gritty details of real life situations. One afternoon, I was riding a bus in San Francisco reading a very touching article on human suffering and helping others. The idea of being generous and extending myself to those in need became so poignant that I began to cry. People were looking at me as the tears ran down my cheek, and I felt a great tenderness towards everyone, and a commitment to benefit others arose in me. As soon as I got home, feeling pretty exhausted after working all day, the phone rang, and it was someone asking if I could please help her out by taking her position as meditation leader that night. And I said, nope, sorry, I need to rest, and I hung up. It's not a matter of right choice or wrong choice, but simply that we're often presented with a dilemma about bringing together the inspiration of teachings with what they mean to us on the spot. There's a perplexing tension between our aspirations and the reality of feeling tired, hungry, stressed out, afraid, bored, and whatever we experience at any given moment. Naropa, an 11th century Indian yogi, one day unexpectedly met an old hag in the street. She apparently knew that he was one of the greatest Buddhist scholars in India, and asked him if he understood the words in the large book he was holding. He said he did, and she laughed and danced with glee and asked him if he understood the meaning of the teachings in the book. And thinking to please her even more, he again said yes. And at that point, she became enraged, yelling at him that he was a hypocrite and a liar. That encounter changed Naropa's life. He knew that she had his number, that he only understood the words and not the profound inner meaning of all the teachings he could expound so brilliantly. And this is where we also are, to one degree or another. We can kid ourselves that we understand meditation and the teaching, but at some point we have to face it. None of what we've learned seems very relevant when our lover leaves us, when our child has a tantrum in the supermarket, or when we're insulted by a colleague. How do we work with our resentments when our boss walks into the room and yells at us? How do we reconcile that frustration and humiliation with our longing to be open and compassionate and not harm ourselves or others? How do we mix our intention to be alert and gentle in meditation with the reality that we sit down and immediately fall asleep? And what about when we sit down and spend the entire time thinking about how we crave someone or something we saw on the way to the meditation hall? Or we sit down, we squirm the whole morning because our knees hurt and our back hurts and we're bored and we're fed up. Instead of calm, wakeful, and egoless, we find ourselves getting edgy, irritable, and solid. This is an interesting place to find oneself, and for a practitioner, it's an exceedingly important place. We find ourselves in a squeeze, a place where we look for alternatives to just being there. It's an uncomfortable, embarrassing place. but it's often the place where we also like to give up and practice avoidance. We like meditation and the teachings when we felt inspired and in touch with ourselves, like we're on the right path. But what about when it begins to feel like a burden, like maybe I made the wrong choice, or this isn't living up to my expectations at all? The people we seem to meet aren't all that sane, and in fact, they seem pretty confused, and the way the place is run is not up to par, and even the teacher is questionable. When we feel squeezed, and this is the essence of what I want you to get, and why this is so important, there's a tendency for the mind to become small. You notice here, she doesn't say a tendency for your mind to get small, like you're a unique individual and this is a disease that you need to be cured of. She's saying this is what the mind does. We get to a certain point in our practice where we start lashing out at the sheer tension that's being created between our ideals and what we're actually able to do, or our expectations and what's actually happening in life. There's a tendency for the mind to become small. Listen to this, a time for us to contract, to feel miserable. And this is beautiful, to feel like a victim, like a hopeless, pathetic case. How many times have you found yourself there? So believe it or not, in that moment of bewilderment or embarrassment, our minds could become bigger. Instead of taking what's occurred and listen to this as a statement of personal weakness or someone else's control over our life, we either lash out at ourselves or we lash out at our situation, the people around us. We could drop all our complaints about ourselves and other people. We could just be there and feel off guard, not knowing what to do. As he said, I'm finding less and less use for certainty. I know how the fuck to fix this moment. Does it really need fixing, or is it just fucking painful? Is there any way out of aspiring, as Suzuki says, we're all worthy just as we are, but we all need improvement. But that moment between knowing I need improvement and actually living the improvement can be 30 years. And how do I live for 30 years in the waiting? This is where we begin to learn the meaning behind the concepts and the words. We're so used to running from discomfort. We're so predictable. If we don't like it, we strike out at someone or beat up ourselves. We want to have security and certainty of some kind when actually you have no ground to stand on at all. Let me say that again. Not only do you have no ground to stand on at all, there is no ground to stand on. There's no place that's at rest. There's only process unfolding. No one knows what's going to happen next. Uncertainty is the correct stance and almost impossible to achieve. So next time there's no ground to stand on, don't consider it an obstacle, consider it a remarkable stroke of luck. You have no ground to stand on. At the same time, this could soften and inspire us, as the poet says. Trungpa Rinpoche once said the best mantra of all is Om, grow up, Swaha. We're given chances all the time. We can cling to certainty. We can let ourselves be exposed as if we'd just been born, just popped out into the brightness of life, and we're completely naked. Maybe this sounds too uncomfortable or frightening, but on the other hand, it's your chance to realize this mundane world is all there is. And look at what the poet was able to wring from that mundane world and turn into awe of just simply being present in the squeeze. Somehow, someone has to encourage us to be inquisitive about this unknown territory, about the unanswerable question of what's going to happen next. The state of nowness is available in that moment of squeeze, in that awkward, ambiguous moment is where you'll find your wisdom mind. Right there in the uncertainty of everyday chaos is your wisdom mind. And we need encouragement to experiment and try this kind of thing. It's quite daring. Maybe we feel we're not up to it, but that's the point. Right there in that inadequate, restless feeling is your wisdom mind. You can experiment. You got nothing to lose. We could experiment with not getting tossed around by right and wrong, with learning to relax and learn to relax with groundlessness. So every time we sit, the paradox is we take our one seat, we're not taking a seat at all because we're sitting on groundlessness. Standing on shaky ground, Isley Brothers. Anybody got it queued up? Ever since you done put me down. So let's take a moment to sit in uncertainty instead of avoiding it and seeking peace or seeking whatever we come to meditation to find. Let's settle even deeper into the very ground of our being where that restlessness lives, that uncertainty lives, and see if we can tolerate being in that place for even a second. Wouldn't that be marvelous? Taking refuge in the breath. Refuge in the present moment, letting go of the 3-hour trip to Dallas, the full day trip to New Hampshire. Not happening now. No way to prepare. Letting go of the past and the fight you've had with your lover. No way to fix it now. Letting your awareness settle into the body, which is now. Settling into the feeling tone of your being, which we talked about last week. Awareness meeting, greeting, and holding the sensations in the body in tender, compassionate awareness without judgment. So unmute yourselves when you're ready and let's play.
Ground yourself in uncertainty. It's like, yeah. And, but luckily you said, you said something like paying attention to your breath as we went into the meditation. So I could ground myself in that. So
It's the little things that count.
it's the little things, but grounding yourself in uncertainty. Wow.
Breathing.
Yep,
Yeah.
tough one.
Well, it really is like floating and moving from swimming and treading water and being terrified of the water to really trusting your capacity to float so that even on an ocean in a storm, you know you can float. And those are two very different places, and that's the transition we're making. And to a person who believes water is going to drown them, floating seems like an impossibility. And life will validate what you expect. If you expect it to drown you, it will. If you expect it to support you, it will. This one's on her phone.
I was looking for something, so I've been so inspired. Here it is. And probably many of you have heard of it and followed along. Speaking of floating, and that's the girl that rode solo from California to Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
And man, talk about uncertainty
Yeah.
Yeah.
every day. She didn't even have like a support boat.
I know.
I mean, 40 however many days and
Mm.
totally at the mercy of the ocean. Even days that she spent rowing and getting nowhere because of the currents.
Mm-hmm.
Much more than a physical game, she said. It was a mind game. But man, that's probably the height of getting comfortable with uncertainty.
Yep.
Wow.
So I recognize that poem that you read, Bart, and it's
Yep.
by a guy by the name of Matt Moberg. He's a Minneapolis poet.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So I put it in the chat. I put a
Oh,
link to it in the
thank
chat.
And a you, Bart.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you say, Sherry?
It says he's a Unitarian Universalist.
Oh yeah.
How do you spell?
here, Moberg.
Yeah, I totally delighted in that. Thank you for digging out the reference.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I
you.
recognized it and I thought, oh, I know this poem. I love that poem.
Oh, man, I loved every single thing about it. You're
Mhm. Me too.
right. Mm.
Okay. Anybody else?
I had to mute myself.
Well, I've got some ridiculous thoughts.
Hey,
Yay.
my kind of man.
So yeah, the uncertainty thing, it reminded me of when you had me read Anthony DeMello, and I hated him. And because he talked about, every relationship is a nightmare and just being free of all uh, the bondage of familial or romantic or friendship, relationships. And I think I wrote you an email going, I hate this guy. Like, I've been alone my whole life, and we need social blah blah blah, and we need social connections, and it's crazy to isolate yourself like this and blah blah blah. But over the years, I've understood the freedom that comes, the paradoxical. I mean, he wasn't saying go live on an island alone, I don't think.
Not,
I think I think he was just trying to get at the freedom that comes with uncertainty.
yes.
And there's two things happening at once. That's why it's so paradoxical. The divine doesn't need the certainty, but the human, the carnate is happening at the same time. And that's the tension, the paradox.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the best, that's the best I got.
Why it's never going to get resolved,
Good way to
Matthew.
put it.
Because if you think about it, the part of us that wants certainty is the part of us that gets comfortable with the fact that we know how to brush our teeth, and we know how to walk, and we know how to fry an egg, and we know how to vacuum the floor. And because of that, it doesn't take a lot of energy. Those neural pathways are established, they're comfortable. Everything in our nervous system can kind of relax when we're in that automatic mind. But what that does is when we're in that part, it puts us blind to everything else. It's comfortable, but limited. And the groundlessness is unlimited. It's the place where all the awe and beauty lives. But it's not comfortable. That's why I started out with we have to learn to master that subtle pushback that happens when things are weird. That subtle pushback that happens below the level of our awareness most of the time that shies us away from the spaciousness of uncertainty and authentic connection back into the limited connection, which just squelches all the spiritual quality out of our lives. So you don't want to get rid of that conditioned mind totally. That's not the goal. But the goal also is not to live all the time in just total ecstatic wonder. Very few people can do that. Maybe Sri Chinmoy and a couple more people, but like I've said, he had people who cooked for him and drove him around. That's not how I want to live my life. I'd like to remember that conditioned mind and be able to get myself from Shreveport to Texarkana. So yeah, it's both and.
All I know is I would not believe any of these sort of, uh, I don't know, sort of beneficial or like, you know, helpful. I would not believe there's any sort of relief from these teachings, had it, except for the times. It doesn't happen every time I meditate, and it's always different, but when, like, for example, this morning during meditation, I didn't need, I mean, the amount of relief and just total, peace and comfort. And this is, I understand, like, we don't just meditate to regulate the nervous system. It's like there's a whole, but the point is, like, the meditation, like the experiences I felt in meditation, I don't believe I've ever been able to experience outside of meditation, just from the total non-stimulation, the total ease of breath. I'm not saying there's not good experiences outside of meditation. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't under, two of the teachers, Adyashanti and what's his name, the other one, talk about another dimension of experience. And they're not talking about like a hallucination dimension. They're just talking about a different dimension of being,
Right.
which is probably reality, as opposed to living in a constant illusion. Anyway, but the the experiences of during meditation, and after yoga or sitting in nature allow me to believe in this stuff because I've experienced it.
Yeah, yeah, great. Nice testimony. And you talked about that dimension. It's hard to describe. John Kabat-Zinn calls it an orthogonal relationship. He says it's almost like you literally discover another dimension when you shift into that part of your brain, and it feels to me like spaciousness. And you also use the word ease. It's very hard to describe, but you'll know it when you experience it, that you feel real compressed and confined, and then all of a sudden it's like shoo, and it feels like a breath of fresh air, or someone opened a window, or all of a sudden I'm not pushing anymore. That's why the word ease, sukha, is used to describe it, and dukkha, the suffering, is the compression of the controlled dimension. So like you're saying, they say it's not people like de Mello, who come out of the traditions of solitude, say that it's not that you don't have relationships, it's that you realize that your well-being doesn't depend upon anything external, that the well-being is something you carry in yourself, so that I'm not clinging to a person for my well-being, or clinging to a teaching, or clinging to a place. I carry that with me, and that's what we're looking for.
And to me, that's the opposite of the uncertainty. That's what makes the uncertainty not an issue, because you can have your wellness in yourself regardless, theoretically.
It's the highest form of self-mastery, that I can't control the external circumstances, but I can control my response to it. And I remember knowing, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen today, but I know that whatever happens, I'm going to be able to get back to peace. I'm going to be able to get back to openness. I will be able to retouch this place. And that's the thing you come to trust. That's a faith that literally that I think emerges. Anybody else?
The experience I've had with having to learn to walk again, and that kind of thing just gives me such appreciation for those people that never get that opportunity. And how they find peace with that is just amazing to me. Amazing.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say about that.
I'll tell you a story on myself. After my motorcycle wreck, I'd been 2 months in the hospital in a body cast, in traction, and they did surgery, put a plate in my leg, and put me in a body cast. And I'm down in physical therapy, learning how to walk on the parallel bars in this body cast. And the body cast is right on the knee, right on the surgery side, all the weight. I'm whining and I'm complaining, I can't do this, it hurts too much, I want to stop. 2 days of this, and on the third day I'm down there, and there's a little kid in double leg braces and crutches. He's about 2 years old, and he's got one therapist helping him with an arm, another one moving his braces, and he was so happy. He was so each stumbling step he took, he was just ecstatic. And
Oh,
I started feeling so much shame. I couldn't find anywhere to hide. I said, "Take me to my room. Take me to my room." I
oh,
can't stand it. To be feeling so much self-pity when I'd had a long life of running and playing, and this kid would never have a single day like that and could take ecstasy in these assisted steps. I mean, the teachers are all around us. But the shame, that's really the feeling in that space between your ideal and what you're actually doing in a given moment. It's unbearable sometimes. So yes, I'm glad you're doing it. And for those of you who don't know, any of you who know Jan Soul, the fellow who did the Coates Bluff Trail, the naturalist who did the film from Bayou to Bay, he canoed from the Bayou Pierre in Shreveport, which is basically a drainage ditch, all the way down to the Atchafalaya Basin in a canoe to show kids where your water comes from. He broke his neck, his dog did, and he's recovering. He had spinal fusion. So any of you who know him, he could use your thoughts and prayers. And Brittany, who was here with us last week, was in a car wreck, and she's pretty well stove up with some whiplash right now.
no.
So
Mm.
reach out.
Well, I would like to thank all of you for sending the vibes to me because they told me I'd probably be out of PT next week.
Oh,
Yeah, this was on Wednesday. And since then, I seem to be walking much better,
great.
just knowing that it was over. So I understand what you're talking about, Woody, that sense of not knowing, which comes at that time of the accident or at the time of the fall or whatever it is really an enlightenment. And then as you come back from that, and this is true probably for you, Bart, too, as you take the steps to get back to where you were or close to where you were, each one of those is a miracle.
Yep. Yeah. All righty. Let's own and let's realize, I was with Dorothy Bruce's wife and Talbot, Robert's wife, at a group for Mary Magdalene. It's a study group for studying the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Yes, there is a Gospel of Mary Magdalene and a Gospel of Jesus. But anyhow, the writer of the book, there are times when we need to go back in these times of bewilderment and study images. When people look at Buddhist art, we're not worshiping the Buddha. We're looking at a figure that embodies a certain, like I have a Buddha in the pose. This looks totally relaxed. Or I've got Avalokiteshvara altar. I do my counseling. That's the main embodiment of compassion. I've got Don Quixote, the emblem tilting at windmills of the liberal, and being perceived as crazy. All of these things. What is Om? Is the ultimate vibrational energy. It's what the cosmos is doing. It's humming a certain vibration. We're sending our vibration, high vibrational energy. We're like the bird. We're singing, and we're letting our voice, our glorious out. So really get into it. Don't try to Om. It says make a noise. It doesn't say make a beautiful noise. Just let everything box out of your vocal cords, go out to the universe and sing back at it. It reminds me of my daughter when she first saw the Gulf Coast. She walked out to the ocean. She went, Ah! What else can you say to the ocean? So let's send our vibration out, okay?
Breath in.
Wow!
Oh,
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a wonderful feeling. Everything's
Everything's
going
going my
my
way.
way. Yes, it is.
Everybody.
everybody have a good week. Have a good vacation, you guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
have fun.
Next
Love you
Saturday
guys.
from New Hampshire. So,
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Love you guys.
everybody, have a great week.